Hello, 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 everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the live stream for the parkour system V3. I guess kind of showcase, mix of Q&A session, kind of showing you guys some new stuff. So yeah, welcome to the live stream, guys. I am going to just double check now that we are fully live, making sure that my audio is coming through proper. All right, perfect. All right, so now, as I've been, for those of you who have been following along on the Discord, I've been saying about how a lot of things are changing regarding the system. And one of the biggest changes is going to be action selection and setup. So in the other dev streams and stuff, I've kind of just gone right into just running around and showing you guys actions. And I really want to show you guys how the new action selection system is going to look. So we're going to take a look at the character blueprint first, just to get that out of the way. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons why I take a few minutes to go through, because I have new video broadcast, plus I have a leveling system that I mess around with. All right, so currently it's not set up with the jump input because I am working, I'm creating a new system for the jump. It's something I actually came up with yesterday. So I'm still working around with this, so I put it back to the E selection. However, one thing you'll notice here is that these new action selections, there's no longer a switch where it's going like vault, height, wall, or normals, or medium, I'm sorry. I will also say I am extraordinarily tired, so bear with me. We are live, so I might mess up a couple of times. But this is one of the newest things. Now, the cool thing about this is that these compare values are simple make arrays. Now, this is a basic functionality that comes with Unreal. What this allows you to do is you can set your own conditions for how animation selection is going to occur. Now, as far as how these work, I'll go through that here in a minute. But the main thing to note is that the system is going to provide you with certain float values, vector values, things like that you can use for different switches. But you can also add different values here, such as things like movement speed, or there's also like distance to target. It's here. Yeah, so you see we got a bunch of main floats here. So you can use all of these to be able to kind of fine tune how action selection is going to occur and just add more values. Now, as far as how it all selects all of these, let me just Control Z. As far as how it selects all of these, it's all through a new data table functionality that I've created here. So now let's go take a quick look at those. Now I'm going to be kind of jumping back and forth in between things. I am watching chat, so if you guys have any questions as we're going through, just bear in mind there's like a 30-second delay, so I might not respond immediately, but that's just for stream quality. Anyways, so inside of the DPTS assets folder, you're going to notice there's a new folder here called selection tables. Now, these are pretty much where you're going to be assigning all of your animations. And when you get the system, after it's been uploaded to Fab, these are going to be empty. So you can add your own values and stuff. But I'm going to show you kind of what a more full table is going to look like. So we'll start with the ground action types. And I don't have anything in the drop-off action types because I'm actually going to set up a couple of those here in this video, so that way you guys can see like what ground actions and certain climb actions. Like, I've got a few things that we're going to set up in this video, so that way you guys can get a better idea of like what the setup is going to look like. So anyway, so let's open up the ground action selection table here. Now you can see we've got row basic, but it's a singular row. Now, the main thing that's really cool about this is that if we wanted to have, let's say, 8 different rows with different values, and let's say, for different character types, or you want to have one that's going to have maybe a blend mask on it for, like a weapon or something like that, that other montages might not be assigned to, you'll notice here on these selection, or on these anim selection functions here, there's a row index. So what that row index is going to reference is literally going to be this row here. Now, right now, I only have one row. It's row 0. Remember, integers is 0 equals 1. So I tried to keep it all with very basic index values, but without trying to, overcomplicate things too much. But the way that it works is that you have an optional name here. So this way you can kind of make sure you know what's what. It's something I found to be very helpful. And then you have compare values. Now, what these compare values reference here is you're going to see indexes of 0, 1, and 2. that's where if we go to here, so this is my vault mantle. So you can see 0 is height, 1 is length, and 2 I've got to distance to target. So this way I can basically, based off the distance I am from the initial part of the action, like the height basically, what the length of the top area is. So like if it's going to be a mantle or a vault, that type of area. And then the overall height for the action as well. So these are the 3 values that I'm feeding into the system. And just matching those index values, I'm saying this is the range I want this animation to be able to play on. Now, realistically, I know probably some of you are probably thinking, well, I could just use chooser tables. Well, there's 2 problems, unfortunately, that I found with chooser tables. The first one, in 5.1, it's experimental, and it's marked experimental for a reason. As you guys know, I use motion warping. It's experimental in 5.1. I use it a lot. But the main thing is I found the chooser tables to not only be inaccurate on some quick selections in early stages of 5.1, or I'm sorry, early stages of Unreal 5.0 for 5 whatever, but it also only assigns based off of range. So the system I created here, it's not only going to look for these values here and look for if it's in the range, but it's also going to, if it finds 2 values or more than 2 or, however many, that are all within the same range, it's then also going to filter to find the best matching value. So whichever one of these is going to be closest to its input. So this way you can actually make it so that way certain values can overlap a little bit. But if a value is, closer to one than the other, then it's going to select a different animation. So it just really gives you a lot of control that it didn't find to currently exist within chooser tables. It could be something that maybe it's in the later stages of Unreal, but I do like this being in 5.1 because it is my personal preferred development type. So that's going to be how that's going to all work. Don't worry, I'm going to show you guys how it looks. I'm just starting with the boring stuff because this way I can get it out of the way. I can start running around the map. Don't worry. So, but now that actually realistically, now that we've got that kind of basic stuff out of the way, let's take a look. So we're going to spawn in here. Now I'm going to go over a couple of other things after, but you can see here we have the basic mantle actions, we have the landing transitions, and the standard vaults. Now, the main thing to remember is that the selection system is completely different, and we can now select between over and under type actions. So we can go over here, but if I press and hold control when I do this, it actually goes through, and there's an entire new selection system too for being able to choose different actions based off of certain modifiers, which I'm going to be showing you guys after. But as you can see here, we've got some really cool, nice landing animations and actions that are happening based off of, certain values like this one. I think I just have it based off of simple distance or landing velocity. Sorry. Again, I am extraordinarily tired. Now, one thing I did think was pretty cool too is that you'll notice that the animation when he was going down over that wall there, it was just rolling pretty smoothly. So you'll notice that here, we get that nice same smoothness, even though it's a significantly larger height. Now, one thing I want to note is that for those of you who have watched the other videos, you're going to note that, or in the Discord, you're going to note that I don't have the animation retime in here currently. It's something that I did say earlier in the Discord. For those of you who don't know, there's just a couple of things that I'm still kind of tweaking a little bit. So I didn't really want to show them until they were fully done. So here is an example of a balance beam, by the way. So we can get the same left and right hang variations. This is also a new hang type that can be used for ledge as well. But if we go ahead and we just go up, we can now walk across the balance beam. Now, one thing I will point out is that the normal offset, so like curved balance beams, are not going to be allowed by default. It's something I'm going to be working on. But to get the rotation correct, it's something I found to be very difficult. But at the minimum, I wanted to make sure this nice up and down action was going to be possible, as well as being able to allow some cool transition actions like this. So this way you can kind of drop down and go back around between different areas. So let's see. Now, another thing here is the new ledge catch system. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure which one is climbing and which one is not, so we're going to find this out together. So if I go ahead and just jump towards a target, Okay, so this one is climb. So that one, I just jumped towards it, and the new ledge catch system has both climbing, and if I go towards this one, do the same thing, you can see he just mantles on top. So this is the non-climbing, that ledge catch. So this is something that's going to basically allow you to really differentiate between, different types of catches as you're going into falling states, allowing for some really unique transitions. Now, as far as where these are being selected and how they're being selected, I just want to remind that everything is data table driven with values that you can set in and control and do whatever you want with. So just because I might only have one value controlling how things are being selected, one of the beautiful parts about this is that I did try to make this as modular as possible. This way, really, you guys can fully control how selection is going to occur. Now, just backing out of play here really quickly, you'll notice that these don't actually have climb boxes around them. None of these areas that I've been climbing onto are, there's no collision around them. But what's happening here is there's actually a new tag system. Now, there is going to be a collision actor that you can put around in areas where your mesh is being a little problematic. But if we just go in here and tag, you're going to see there's two tags on this particular actor. First one is climb area. This is going to be the way that you can define a specific mesh as a climbing area. The second tag is going to indicate the climb type. You can set it to beam, point, free climb, or ledge. So it's something that's going to really allow for a lot more functionality on certain things. And just to show here as well, if we go ahead and just go up to this wall here, I'm just going to jump towards, you can see that I do not have the free climb blend space in here. I just realized that. But if we go up to the top here, we also have the ability to use actions on climb ups as well. Now, one thing that's, again, want to note that I do not have currently in place, because it's another thing that I'm tweaking, is the live climbing offset. So this is going to be something that's going to allow you to make sure that you're always at the proper rotation, going around curved surfaces when climbing. Not beam climbing, again, that's going to be something that's going to specifically be removed. So that's going to be, I'm going to fix everything and make sure everything's fine-tuned, but you guys, if you've been in the Discord or you've watched any of my videos, you guys know I have serious ADHD and I can't help myself. When I've got an idea, I gotta check it out. Now, another thing that I think is pretty cool, we'll start from over here, so this right here is a ledge. What's above me here is point, and just to show you here, if I go to here, click on the tags, you can see ledge, click on this one, point. So if I go ahead and play from here. Now, if I just go over and go up, you're going to see he gets to the dead center. Let me finish my statement, then I'll take a look at the chat. Looks like there's a couple new ones. He gets to the dead center of the area. So this is something that also is a new part of the system, where it'll actually, on all points, it'll kind of look for the farthest edge left and right and try to be able to get the exact middle point, allowing for the removal of that old school feature that I had of getting like that arrow for point targets. Now it's just going to get the actual direction on the mesh. Okay, now let's see. Let's catch up with chat. So the auto correction on the beam it's not going to be in for the first iteration. It's something I'm going to be continuing to work on. The main reason being is that when I did some testing, I noticed that depending on how the curvature of the beam was, there was a bit of a, let's just call it a displacement of the trace. And the consistency wasn't something that I was very happy with. So it's not something I'm not going to be adding in. It's just, I want to make sure that what I'm adding in is going to be a little bit more refined. This way I don't have to worry about certain issues that might be occurring and certain things that you guys might be familiar with in the current version of the system. This way I can try to take all those out until I'm certain of what's going to happen. But eventually it's going to be able to go around curved surfaces. The hang as well is going to be able to go up and down, so this way it kind of sticks along the surface as well. So like as you climb upwards, it will actually climb up. And this way, by the time I get to being fully happy with everything, I can add in the hopeful IK systems that I have for the 4th version of the system. Yes, I already have plans for V4, so don't judge me. I'm never going to stop updating this system. Okay, so now let's get back to some of the technical stuff. I've shown you guys some of the cool stuff, how it looks. So let's take a look more at some of the technical stuff. So for the animation setup, one of the things I'm going to take a look at, so let's see, animations. Trying to think of what's going to be a good example. So we'll go to Vault. You can see we got a ton of different actions, and most of these are currently in the system. Not all of them because are in the listings. Not all of them just because I haven't had time to do all of them. I started getting into animation setup, and then I went, oh, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I did this? And here we are with certain things now, just kind of currently not in, but like I said, they will be done before the intended release date. So there's no change in release date. There's no change in anything. I'm just being my normal self and making final small tweaks. Anyways, so if we take a look at, I think it's the wall safety is the one I got set up here. Okay. So one of the main things that I personally didn't like was the offsets. The way the offsets were in the early versions of the system, it was very static. It didn't allow for a lot of adjustment. It was very much per action, where it really should have been per animation. So what I did was I created my own little tweaked version of motion warping. Now, so we have a ton of different options here. First one being is that we have warp rotation direction. So actor is going to be used for anything that's a non-climb start. So if you don't need to face towards the wall that you're actually trying to attach to in like most climbing situations, you're going to use actor. But you also have height target normal, which is set so this way you can just easily select between the two based off of this little enum value. Now there is also a warp rotation offset. This is because when I found it's actually, if I go to the beam walk, go to my traversal, balance beam, I may have gone a little bit crazy and I kind of screwed a few of the animations, but that's okay. We're going to use the good old search feature here. I think it's the drop left. No, drop right. Okay. Here we go. This one's a better example. So if we go to the motion warping here, and if I go to, no, wait, it's the climb up. This is what happens when I code for 12 hours at least and get about 4 hours of sleep. So I am very sorry, guys. There we go. All right. Took a little bit. We got there. Okay. So on this one here, you're going to see that we got the height target normal, but the warp rotation offset is set to 90 degrees. But that's because this particular animation at the end of it, from the starting position, he rotates 90 degrees. And now because realistically, when you're doing the balance beam, the plane constraint, which is actually what's keeping the actor in place here, is going to, you actually want the, like the plane constraint of, or the normal of this value, not this value. The reason being, just for a quick thing, is that a plane constraint constrains the actor into a 2D dimensional area, which means that if you get this area, it's going to constrain it up, down, left, right. That's going to be your available movement. You're not going to get forward, back. However, if you constrain it along this axis here, you're going to get forward, back, left, right, or I mean, sorry, forward, back, and left, right, but no up and down. Basically means that you won't be able to travel up this without an adjustment to the normal. Easiest way to adjust that is to just use the normal here to be able to make sure that he's, facing in the right direction. So, anyways, without getting too technical. Now, another thing that I think is pretty cool too is that we have lerp settings here inside of the animation offsets. Now, this is more used for like standard vaults. Like I believe if I go over to here, this one I'm using a lerp between the height and the length value. Granted, I do have to pull it back a little bit, But and a lerp is just basically getting 2 points, and you can set a value, 0 being point A, 1 being point B, and you can set 0.5 to be if you want the middle. So like here I've got the lerp target vector is length, but under the root motion modifier, we're going with height, and then it's just getting a 0.5 between the two. So now, one thing I just do want to point out too is that you don't need to go through all of this like complexity shit. Sorry, I know part of my language. I know I'm not probably supposed to swear on a stream, so we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. But anyways, so you don't have to go through all this complexity stuff. It's stuff that you can do to be able to improve what the functionality is going to be, but it's by no means something that you absolutely need to do in order to get the system to work. Realistically, all you need to do is just add the component in, add in whatever versions of executions you want to have happen, and then set some values for animations, and you'll be on your way. It's very, very straightforward. I tried to make sure that the setup this time around is even easier than before, with just more ability to modify and control how things are actually going to behave. So it's one of the biggest things is just allowing for more control. Always, always more control. All right, so getting back into this standard ground action stuff here. So with the offset stuff, we can now set offsets by animation. We can set rotation adjustments. We can use the actor, or we can use the height target normal of the climb area. So we get a whole bunch of new stuff there. Now, as warp target names go, there's a whole new listing of warp target names, but you can actually, I'm going to be setting up, this is another thing that that's why the settings currently aren't being displayed, like you're going to be able to adjust. It is going to be data table driven, but I, again, had another idea for making it so that way you guys will have customizable warp target names. But essentially right now, it's just basic stuff like what the height, length, land, that's really kind of it. So, because like this one you can see is height, this one is height also, and this one is land. Now, as far as landing goes, by the way, just to kind of rerun back here, landing is now also assigned by calling a specific notify, because this way it allows you to not only, define when you want to know when a landing situation is, because sometimes you might just be entering a falling state. You don't really need to know when a landing position is. So I've set this into a simple notify, and you can set where you want it to start from, how far down you want it to go, how far forward you want it to go, and then if you want it to have some sort of an offset. And this is just going to be starting forward in the actor's rotation, but from the point that you assign. So this is going to take a similar target that has the warp name length. So in other words, it'd be like if you were coming at it from like this side, this would be the length side. Whoops. So now you've got assignments for landing, assignments for offsets. Now, the other cool thing is, I don't know what I did. Okay. Is we have in the end parkour action, we now are doing custom blends. And that's actually realistically one of the things that's creating the smoothness between the different, like that one's, it's going a little, there we go. So like the way that it's not dipping, there's a little more smoothness in between how action blending occurs. All of this is occurring because of the fact that I'm no longer utilizing Unreal's default montage blending feature. The reason being is because I actually found it to be a little lackluster. I wanted to be able to make my own definitions as to when I wanted to stop an animation. I didn't want it to tell me when it's going to stop. And I never really found the blend out time to really match what I had set for a value. So now, whenever you set the end parkour action, that's actually going to be the point to which it stops the montage. You can have blend out times here, custom movement mode selections if you want. If you set it to none, it's going to use its own default selection. Basically, if it finds a landing point with a landing impact, it's going to set it to walking. If it doesn't, it's going to set it to falling. But you can also set your own values here. Set climb is also built into this now. Rather than being one of two different notifies, it's now one, just to help save time, make things a little bit easier. Now, the attempt transition action, this part is where we're going to be getting into some of the next stuff. So I don't want to get too deep into this stuff just yet. But the whole transition from fall is actually how we're getting the animation smoothness, even though we're doing something, you know, like that height. Or if we go up to here and then we go and drop down and get the same result. The reason being is that if it doesn't find a landing animation and you have this, or a landing spot like an impact, and you have this checked, it'll allow you to be able to push a function off of the event on landed in your character. And again, this is another optional thing, but it just makes those blends between lands and higher height locations a little bit smoother. So what it'll do is it'll look for what the transition action for land is supposed to be, and then it'll go ahead and hold on to it until we actually land in some sort of way, shape, form. So that's essentially all this is going to do. It's going to hold on to the animation, and once once the actor has landed, then it'll go ahead and perform it. Stupid simple. And the landing transitions are here in set transition compare values. And again, just like with everything else that I've shown you guys so far, it's a simple selection of array values. So this one here is the selection index that I set up for landing. So I just went velocity, z velocity, ABS. Now I can just get, a direct value. ABS just means that if it's a negative value, it'll turn it into a positive value. If it's a positive value, it'll keep it at a positive value. And then for this one, I also have transitions being used for climb selections, which I think was pretty cool. And this is where I'm going to show you guys a couple of things. So if you take a look at the starting animation here, where he jumps forward and then attaches, and if I do the same thing, let's see, I think this one's the climb. Yeah. So I'll move it up just a little bit. And I do the same thing here. You can see that the starting animation is the same. If I go over to free climb, it's the same jump animation. However, if I press the space bar, you can see that that's not the jump animation that I have tied to my jump, which means that it's not the jump. It's actually a climb start. So the way that you can use the transition system, and again, I'm not trying to confuse anybody and think that there's a whole bunch of weird complex things that you have to do. I'm just showing you all the things that you can do if you want to do it. And I'm going to be making a ton of tutorial videos. That's what the next week, 2 weeks is going to be all about. So anyways, so if I go, let's see, go to selection tables. So we get the transition action selection table. So I'll open this up here. So you'll see under climb attachment here, we have transition compare value index. So like I said before, if the selection index is 1, then I want it to look at whatever this is. I'm just setting values based off of whatever the temp found climb type is, and I'll go over that after. It's the same thing as the climb type. It's just that rather than setting direct values, there's now temporary values to help control how things are going to be set. But anyways, so if we go back to, oops, here, there we go. So it's going to look through and see, okay, so we got the full contact attach. So under compare values, you can see 0 and 1. So what that means is that it's looking for, under the transition, 0 and 1. So that's ledge or point. So that's really it. That's all it's doing. It's just kind of, you can, and this is just showing that you can make pretty much anything a float value. This is an enumeration that I'm just going, okay, select basically any one of these values based off of the active one. If it's none, set it to -1, so that way it doesn't, do anything weird. So that's really all that's going on there. But what's happening here is that we can open up one of these animations here. And you can see that all this is doing is just going to the height point. I open up the root motion here, going to the height point, and then end parkour action, getting the blend out and setting climb. But if I go to the assets, selection tables, and we're going to go to climb start action. So for this one, I actually have the jump. So this is where that's kind of, it's going and starting, but here at the end, for the end parkour action, we're saving the system values, which just basically just means that we don't want to reset all the vectors. We don't want to, change movement mode. We want to keep everything in place because we want to follow up to another thing, and that thing is going to do the whatever it is we want it to do. Just so you know, you kind of get the philosophy of things. Now from here, we're going to attempt transition action. So it's not always going to be a success. Sometimes, you know, if things don't match, you might just fall and then hit the ground and you're good. But it's going to look for the transition action index. So what this basically means is that it's going to look for the index on here. So you can see this one again, 0 is 1, 1 is 2, just, you know, indexes. So this is going to technically be 1, and the value matching that I want to use for it, my character here, I've also set to 1. So this way I can go ahead and just go 1, 1, and well, done. Now from here, it's just going to do the same thing where it's going to, you know, check to see if the values are in between this range. If they are, cool. The other thing is too, is that you don't have to have these set as values. If you have certain actions that you want to have use the values and other ones that you don't, you can set this, the min and max to 0, and the system will just go, oh, okay, you want us to ignore these, done deal. So there's really a whole lot of different ways that you can control things from these selection tables. Now, the other thing is I wanted to show you guys is the modifications, because this kind of really does change how things are going to work. And then we're going to set up one of the other action types. So if we take a look here at the compare values, if we open up, actually, I'm going to go and look for, where's my tic-tac? Here we go. So we got the tic-tac, compare values, here we go, action modifications. So the way that this works is there's no more like sidewall action, left sidewall, right action, or anything like that. There's now, it's when it finds and validates a sidewall, which by the way, there is a fully new validation system for sidewall. So if you're not within a defined error tolerance of the rotation of the hit area, then it's not going to work. Basically, to put it simply, you need to be actually rotated against the wall you're trying to jump rather than, you know, just being slightly rotated. So it's been fully fixed now. But to be able to assign, if you when you want an action to use the you know, the sidewall vector, or to be chosen if the sidewall vector has been found, you can use the primary modification. So we have sidewall left, sidewall right. Now there's also, as you can see here, a ton of enclosure options. Now these are basically just to be able to help you assign like when you want to use for slide areas, like this one is for enclosed height. If you want to do things for enclosed width. And all of these are just going to define themselves based off of values that you set. And if the area is, you know, let's say if you say, okay, max width and height for, you know, or sorry, minimum width and height for enclosure is going to be like 40 to 200. Well, if it's beyond 200, it's open, so you're good to go. But if it's within that value on height and or width, it's going to push back out the according value. So if it's the height was less than 200, but greater than 40, it's going to come back height. If it's just that. If it's width, then it's just width. If it's both of them, it's going to be enclosed all. Any just means any one of the values. You don't really care. If enclosure comes back as any kind except for open, it's going to go ahead and perform said action. The enclosed none is because in certain conditions, I did find that it was trying to do the enclosure type. So I also set this to allow for you know, a little bit more fine-tuned control. I'm actually using this for these, you can see, and enclosed none. And this is another part of the modification section here, is that you can decide to add a secondary modification. So if you want to have, you know, enclosure or sprint, whatever you want, you can actually go ahead and assign these two to be working together. And if you want them both to have to be true, or if either one of these has to be true, just by selecting and or. So between the modification options and all the different compare values, there's really kind of sky's the limit on what you guys will be able to do with this particular variant of the system. Now, let's go take a look at another way that you can modify things, as well as setting up a new action type. So I believe if I open up the animation here, I believe I have the swing jump. This one? Oh no, it's a different one. Like I said, I was working with a few different animation packs trying to figure out which one I actually wanted to use. We're going to go testing assets, parkour animations, here we go. And then I'm just going to go ahead and grab, I think it's hanging. Let's see. Hanging, jump forward. Let's see. There we go. All right, so we're going to grab this one, and I'm just going to go and throw it into, we'll just throw it in traversal for right now. I'll reassign my folders and stuff later. So we're going to go ahead and replace the skeleton, set the retarget skeleton, because that's just what I'm using here, and then we're just going to quickly enable root motion. And then we're just going to create the anim montage. All right, perfect. So now we have a root motion montage with this nice little swing here. So what we're going to do is we're going to save that. And we're going to look at right about where he swings outwards, maybe right about here. And then for right now, we're just going to go add notify, end action, and set the blend out time to 0.2. And we're going to set the movement mode to falling. All right, so if we go ahead and just save that. Now what we're going to do is go to our selection table folder here. And then we're going to go to climb action types and under climb action transitions. And don't worry, I do have other transitions and stuff to show you, but we're just kind of moving piece by piece. I'm trying to make sure I get through all the little different bits and pieces. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just add another type into here. And this one's going to be beam swing off. All right, so we're going to set the climb type restriction to beam. We're going to set the sub climb type restriction to hang. Now, one thing to note is that for the purposes of beam, full contact is walking, and hang is, well, obviously hang. So just for note, I'm going to try to find a better way to maybe code something inside of C++ to be able to make this a little bit more versatile, but just something to note. Now, as far as the input restrictions here, we're going to go forward, but we're also going to add action modifications. Now, this is another thing that I think was pretty cool, is that I found a way to be able to incorporate inputs, but they're not going to make it so that way you have to use actual keyboard and mouse. So you'll be able to use a controller, you'll be able to use joysticks, whatever you want. There's going to be no restriction there. But what this is going to do is I've built a function that takes the input scalar values and just does a simple correlation of what the active value is, just looking at greater than or equal to, greater than or less than 0. And it can now, you can set actions based off of this direction. So for me, I'm going to make sure that forward, because I don't want to be going left or right or down. I just want to go forward for the swing off. However, under the action modifications here, we're going to go to the custom bool modification options here, because this is another way that you can set things up onto your, your own level and put your own kind of spin or code incorporated into it. So if we go use custom boolean modification here, set that to true. And we'll set the index to 0. And then we'll just go into the montage selection. Now, another thing, you can see the montage selection here is an array. Now, if you have more than one animation in here, it's going to just select a random one of that list. So this is a built-in randomizer, by the way. So you can put as many as you have for this type, I guess, that use this type of same setup. And it'll randomly select for you. So just another cool thing that has been added in. So, but we're going to go and just get the drop here, or I'm sorry, beam jump, or is it hang jump? I have it right here. Oh, it's been a long day. All right, so now that we got the hang jump in, we got the index. Now we also need to make sure to, we'll just put a couple of compare values into here. We'll set these to 0, and then we'll save. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our character blueprint. And event graph. Now what I'll do is I'll just put it off of shift here. Now as you can see, the old sprint boolean is still worked into the system, so all the same stuff is kind of still there. However, one thing that's new is if we pull off of the component reference here, and we just type in custom, you'll see custom action mod booleans. So we can get this, and this is also referenced in the component list here as well. So right now I do have one added in here, but if you didn't, you would just, add one. And you can add as many of these as you want, by the way. But what we're going to do is just get a reference. But, and then we're going to just get whatever value we want to set off of this particular event. So, you know, we're going to be setting 0 in this instance. So we're going to pull off and set array element. I'm sorry, we're not going to get set array element. Anyways, all right, so we get 2 of those. And this way we can now just set this particular index value to whatever we want. So when we press this, it'll set it to true. When we release, set it to false. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, right? And this allows you to be, and the reason why I'm using a lot of indexes and stuff here, guys, just so, you know, if you don't think I'm trying to make you go crazy, is that these allow you, this is pretty much, it allows it to be more universal. You can incorporate all of these things into your code so much easier when just using open-ended indexes, because there's no direct references to anything, but it is being used as a reference of a switch inside of the internal system. So it's, you know, it's, yeah, trust me, it is worth it. But anyways, so if we set this item to true, this one to false, and then we hit compile and save, and we go over to the beam here, and then if we just go ahead and jump on it like this. Now, if I press shift forward and then do E, oh, it actually chose that one. I will say I threw in the modification validation into the climb transition section just before the stream started, so I'm going to be 100% flat honest, I'm not entirely surprised that that didn't quite work out as planned. Hold on, let me see. Sorry, I'm just reading a new chat here. Yeah, so there isn't anything that's going to necessarily stop you from being able to trigger the system from being in a falling or in-air state. That's something you are going to have to block in place. However, there is something that's going to stop the system or you from being able to trigger the system when it's already doing an action, which I know is something that a lot of people had requested, was just some sort of action blocker, so that way you couldn't just spam the button and do a thing. So there is I think I have it off of this, and if I don't, no, I don't, that's right, I kept it off here. So if I go into the parkour system here and just type in busy, you can see that we have this little boolean here. So we can get that boolean, add a branch, and then if busy is true, we don't want to do anything, but if it's false, then we execute. So other than that, though, this is just saying that the system is currently doing an action of some kind, and you have not reset it utilizing one of the, you know, notifies. And that's all that this boolean, the busy boolean, is going to be referencing. So outside of that, you can put your own custom booleans for when wall actions are going to take place. And the other cool thing is, too, is I am trying to work on a way to give more normal values. I don't know if you guys, I mean, I get a ton of weird, you know, parkour stuff on my YouTube feed, which, I mean, when I say weird, I mean like weird cool, not like weird like I'm criticizing, I mean like weird cool, because there was one that I saw that was like goblin parkour, and it had this really, really, really hot wall jump mechanic. And it was just, it really impressed me, but it made me think about, you know, utilizing a trace for wall jumps and getting the normals to be able to allow for maybe even actions that aren't necessarily climbing based to be able to use what the wall's facing direction is. So I'm going to be trying to add a lot more, but, yeah, no, the custom Boolean options, you can do pretty much whatever you want, you know. You can add in your own switches of whether or not control is going to happen. Now, as far as like whether or not tic-tac itself is going to happen, yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, because there is a switch for sidewall traces. So yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So that's where the ledge catch system is going to be coming in place. Now, as far as like, if you were to be falling and you hit the flat surface of the wall, right now that's actually, as you can see here, if I go and I hit the flat surface of the wall, it doesn't work. But if I go a little closer to it and get a little higher up, it does attach. Now, the reason for this is, let me actually pull up Don't mind. I haven't commented anything, so please don't hate me. I'm just trying to get to a specific trace function so that way I can just turn it on. There we go. So what's happening here is that I've created a new trace function that when you're in jump, you can see that there's this grid trace that happens forward, which is something I'm going to be showing more towards the end, but I just want to note that this is how it's actually finding possible ledge locations during the actual falling state. Now, whether or not you could use some tweaks in how it looks for things, maybe, because what you're talking about is like it hits the flat part of a surface and tries to catch itself. That's not something currently in place, but like I said, with the things that I've been seeing, it has given me a lot of ideas for things. It's just these are recent ideas, and I'm going to be honest, I've been letting recent ideas be a holdback for releasing this new version of the system for a while now. So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to, I'm putting in some more actions, putting in some more functionality, but I'm also trying to make sure that I get this version out. The main reason being is that this overhaul, just to also point out, is that this is going to be the final massive overhaul. And when I say that, I mean like you're not going to be able to recognize the system from V2 to V3, V3 to V4. It's going to look pretty much the same. I do feel like I've narrowed down a really good functionality here, allowing for a combination of free open use action types, and a whole bunch of different ways to do stuff. Now, as far as like just combining actions though, you can combine a lot of different actions. Yeah, so that's something I am going to be trying to look into. Yeah, no, it is. And like I said, it's if you haven't seen it, I do highly recommend looking into. I think the channel is literally called Goblin Parkour. But it has probably one of the slickest, smoothest looking wall slide jump mechanics I've probably ever seen. And he's got some really wacky sound effects and stuff he does too, or she actually, I'm honestly not even sure. Not even going to try to guess that one. Just 'cause I don't ever hear them talk. But anyways, but it's like I said, that type of stuff has definitely been cooking in the back of the noggin, trying to find a way to incorporate that as well. So yes, that is going to be coming in at some point. Most likely, if I can, that'll be coming when the pipe climbing and ladder system will be coming in. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely some really, really cool stuff. All right. Let's see. So trying to figure out, I lost my train of thought here. I am so sorry, guys. Give me one moment. I also need to take a sip off a drink because it is currently 96 degrees outside. I have no AC. Oh, okay. So another thing I guess that I can show you guys really quick here is that there is the for those of you who might have been following along, there's going to be a new jump system, and like I said, this is something I'm still kind of trying to work out. And what this is going to allow is, instead of, so if I try to do the basic Unreal jump, you can see that he has to do the mantle in order to be able to achieve it because, well, you just can't jump that far. However, if I press the action key right now, you can see that he does the jump, but I didn't actually have to do any mantle to get there. It does the same jump animation, and that's because there's actually a new dynamic dynamic jump function that uses a simple launch character, which will trigger your jumping code usually, depending on how your ABP is set up. But realistically, this allows you to be able to reach really tricky distances really easily. Which you can see, like it's reaching right on the edge here. Like if I just must slow this down here, you can see like it's tippy toe right on the edge there. I tried to fine tune it as best as I could to make it so that way. And you can adjust this, by the way. This isn't something like it's static, fine, you can't do anything. No. That's not how I roll, so that's not how any of this is going to be set up. Now, let's see. There was another. Oh, here, we can do this. Let's see which one. This one off to the side. Just to show you guys another example of another new element, I suppose, is I'll take this, move that, and we'll take that, and we'll fatten this guy up. All right. So now you guys have seen. Oh, I gotta bring this down a little bit. There we go. So you guys have seen, we can move left and right. Here's a look at the new corner transitions. So you can see that they're nice and smooth. He's kind of attaching on. Now I haven't really like fine-tuned the positions for the motion warps on this yet, just because again, I'm just kind of making sure that things work. But that's the corner transitions there. But we also, because of the way the climb transitions and modifications and the way that you can set things up. Oop. Why did that do that? That was working earlier. I swear it. Well, we're going to do some live debugging here, guys. So let's take a look. So we're going to probably hurt your head with some of this stuff. If not, kudos, because it hurts my head. Let's see. So we're going to go into... Maybe it has something to do with the animation blueprint. Maybe it's something there. Alright, so for ledge, active climb subtype, we got the hang and the full contact. So we got the animation stuff in there. Well, while I'm doing this stuff, if you guys have any questions, anything that you're curious about, maybe future stuff, anything that might be currently in place, feel free to ask away. I do not recommend trying to look too closely at the screen. It will give you a migraine. I will be cleaning all this up and commenting, so don't think you're going to get it looking like this. I promise I will not be handing anybody a system that looks like this, at least on the interior. Let's see. So let's take a look. We'll look at primary trace from ground. All right, we'll just look at it from the outside execution here. So as you guys saw, we have kind of execute DPT as being like the primary function here. This is one of the things that really lets things start up real nice, is we have this functionality of split up. All right, so calculate, execute, climb, start. Ah, okay. Oh, let's see. There we go. That should solve that. So we get to the hang. No, it's still going to... Well, it looks like I still have some debugging stuff. So when you say descending actions, let's see. When you say slide off a ledge, do you mean like just drops? Like, so like, I'll just show you just to see if this is what you're referring to. So like if you're going down, something like that, or do you mean like if you were to disengage off of climbing? So the Monkey Vault lower platform would be handled by the same transition system that I was showing earlier. So like if the platform was at its normal standard height, you can see that it lands and does the transition animation roll. However, if I go up here, which you can see here, which will be able to be doing a vault onto a lower platform, it'll hold its position. I don't think I have a slide currently in this in my listing. Let me see. Oops. Nope. So I just have to grab an animation. So sliding would be handled under the vault action. So from running to then do a slide. Oh wait, so are you talking about if you were to go from running to do a slide? So like, do I have any? Here, I can just take this, this, and this. That will group these together. So do you mean like if you were to do a slide off of something like this, where you would be kind of like sliding through this open area here onto a lower platform, that type of thing? Just to make sure that I'm understanding what you're referring to. And I realize there is a stream delay. Oh, you're talking about the drop actions. Yes. Okay. So that is just something I don't have the actions set up in the listing for yet, and something that I'm going to be adding in a little here. So inside of the animations, yeah, no, all the same stuff that was in the last version, or I guess technically the current version, is in this version. There's just more ways to kind of iterate things. So inside of assets, selection tables. So we got the ground action types here, and you'll see drop off action. So drop off indicates that there is a kind of a ledge point here that you're going to be going down from. Yeah, so as far as like going automatically for climbing, so that's actually not from the drop actions, because technically that's a climb start, which in the other one here, making me jump all around back and forth, man. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm not actually like upset or anything, just to clarify. But for the climb start actions here, so like I showed earlier, most of or actually every action type has a different variety of modifications and ways that you can do things. Now, inside of climbing, if I open up the action modification options here, there's, primary modifications, which the action types actually have different modifications. So you're not going to see all the different like stuff that you like, enclosures and stuff for climb transitions or climb starts, because you're not generally going to be able to climb start from like doing some sort of like basically from like this. You're not going to be able to start climbing from that. And if you can figure that out, well, that's a genius move. But anyways, so the way that I look at it is that you're only going to be doing climbing or certain initiating from, certain types. You might want to use a sidewall to do a tic-tac jump up to a ledge. You might want to just do a standard jump. You might want to, it's different types of things. But essentially, one of the modification options is drop. Drop would be to do what you're referring to. So if there was, like, for example, this here is climb area ledge, this would trigger the drop action type. But right now, as the climb transition stuff seems to need a little bit of rework, because like I said, I was playing with things prior to the stream. That was not a good idea, but it's fine. I am going to be doing an additional stream probably before release, where I am adding more stuff, so I'll probably end up doing another one or a video. Who knows? Maybe I'll use the gasp system just for fun. But yeah, no, there will be ways to drop down to ledges, drop down to platforms and stuff, utilizing so the drop actions as well have the same modifications as Vault, so you can select actions if you're dropping in enclosed areas and stuff. So let me we're gonna go parkour actions, animations. Let's take a look at what we can set up here. So we've got, so I'm not gonna do the climbing one. Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest. There was a lot of different issues that I wasn't happy with a lot of different stuff with the system. I mean, the drop actions was one of them. just because of the fact that it just didn't have the right type of calculation system. So it's not that I haven't used Gasp. It's just whether or not I want to use it for the next stream. I actually plan on doing an entire integration into Gasp, and one of the guys in the Discord that I don't want to say manage, because I mean, God, at this point you guys run it more than I do. But it was talking about the this new system that's a Gasp ALS merge project. And I'm actually thinking about trying to incorporate that as well, just just for fun, see if it's possible, and if it is, I think it would be a really cool variation between. But here, let's keep focusing on. I was trying to get drop actions in place. That's what I was trying to do. So we get jump drop and monkey drop, and then we'll just put these into traversal, animation, boop, and copy. All right, let me just do my quick retarget, and we'll just do asset actions. We'll get a property matrix. As you can tell, I pretty much do this all the goddamn time. Oh, wait, that was the wrong one. There we go. And we'll set enable. Perfect. All right, so now with those in place, we can go ahead and we'll just create some montages here. We'll start with just the jump drop here. So what I'll do is I'll go track, add a couple notify tracks here. All right, so all right, cool. Well, once you get it all set up, definitely share some stuff in the Discord. There's a share your creation section, and I love seeing stuff people do with the parkour system. So, please, share away. I love when I can see different stuff that people are doing all the time with, even if it's not stuff that has to do anything to do with parkour, the parkour system, or any of my assets. If you have stuff that you want to show off, the Discord is a great place to do it, man. Anyways, so we're going to add the motion warping with offset here, because again, this is our new ability to actually have offsets built into things. And then we'll kind of go to like right here, because this one doesn't really have a lot of like direct root motion, so we have a little bit of leeway with this one. And then we'll just go root motion modifier, set this to height, and we'll just do ignore z axes. We don't really need to warp rotation on this. And then for the height though, we're going to bring it back maybe 30 units, and we'll bring it up 30 units as well. Now, as I said before, we need to call in the landing trace, so find possible landing location, and then we'll set the search from height. The max search down distance or z distance will be 60, forward distance will be 50, and the forward offset we'll just keep it 0 because we don't really need it to offset. It can start right from where we know the height is, right? Because then from here we can go again motion warping with offset and just look at where he kind of goes here. So with these drop types here, you can see that he enters into a falling state. So what this means is we want to try to hit it as close to the edge as possible, just to be able to make it a little easier, and then we'll do the end parkour action here. Set the blend out time to 0.2. We're just going to set climb, we'll keep off, and all this stuff we'll keep off. Now we will go ahead and attempt transition action. Now one thing is that with the transition actions, you can capture them at the point of an animation utilizing the capture transition value notify as well. Now this isn't necessarily vital, but it is recommended because it gets the most accurate readout at the time rather than a possible when the animation ends. If you're trying to get like a Z velocity value, that Z velocity might not actually be the same. So in order to make sure that you're actually getting the proper value at the time that you're trying to get it, it is recommended to use the capture transition value notify. Now for the index, we're just going to set it to 0 because that's the landing structure that I have. And then we'll go ahead and save. Oh, we need to do this one. So let's change the name here to land and ignore Z, warp rotation. And perfect. All right. So now if I go into content, assets, selection tables here, ground actions, and the drop-offs. We'll go ahead and add the montage for this one here into this. So this is just going to add the montage in. And we'll just go basic drop. Now, these names are only referenced to you. This is not something that's going to be, changing. This is going to change anything in the system. This is just so you know what things are. Now, as far as the compare values, well, we'll use, I think I got the drop height already hooked in. Let's take a look. So if we open up the character blueprint here, and let's see, we got vault, mantle, drop. So we got drop distance and distance to drop area. So this is like the distance to ledge, like the drop, like how far away you are from this point. So if you're here, distance between here and here. And then we have the actual drop distance. So we're going to set 2 values here. I'm just going to leave this one to 0 because I don't really care about how far away we are from the actual ledge. And we'll go with between 100 and 650. And play. And then we're also going to change the landing because I messed this up. This is for a mantle type, so this selection of settings is for a mantle type. So we're actually going to change this from height to drop, I believe. Been a long day. Let's see. Drop target. Okay. So we're going to go drop target. And then go ahead and just set these. We'll maybe 150 and the forward search distance 250. Actually, we'll go 250 and 250. And we'll go 20 on this front offset. And then we're also going to hold transition from fall. And then, like I said before, this is going to allow us to be able to kind of set certain value or use a transition action. If we're actually not landing, it'll hold it until we do. So we're going to get the capture. Perfect. All right. So now, where do I have my platform? There it is. I play from here. Oh, it'll do the jump because I've got the wrong selection. Oh, man. What else did I mess up here? I will say this is not the most successful stream I've ever done, but that's okay. Where did I go wrong? So it's saying, again, some more live debugging. Now, this is why we do dev streams, guys. That way you guys know that I'm still human, I still mess up. No, I'm just kidding. Of course you know that. God, all I do is mess up, I feel sometimes. Let's see. So attempted access index 2 from array selection values length 2. Okay. So, all right, we'll have to look into the drop actions, but it is going to be something that'll be available. I did have it in a different project, but that was kind of just like the edit project. So like I said, I now that this is, I am going to be doing a new stream just because we'll call it the redemption stream because I'm not going to fucking, friggin' show you guys broken stuff and let that be the last time you see it before release. That's not okay with me. But there is a lot of cool stuff and you guys can see what's happening at least. So, there's perks. But just like with every development project prior to release, that's the reason why it's not released yet. Now, one other thing that I wanted to note, because we are getting towards the closure time of said stream here, is one other thing that I had a lot of people request was the live ability to adjust between dropping and like overs, like over-under actions, for example, okay? Now, an example just that I have set up here because setting up new actions is apparently making me look like a fool, so it's now scared me. I will fix all of it, I promise. But you can see here, we can dive through, and I can do this over and over and over again, but I can also go up over it. Now, the reason why it allows me to be able to go up over or through is actually from a simple enumeration inside of the character. So inside of the character blueprint here, we've got there it is. So we got the left control. So it's the over-under selection preference. Now, this is just one of several preference types that are going to be available. And again, this is going to be more something worked into the selection system of things for the settings. And I'm still working out some of that stuff, but fortunately, that's just simple basic setting stuff. That's not going to really take long. Maybe like a day at the most. So, but what it's going to allow is whenever you have this set to under, if there is an over and under variation. So, you're going to set values to be able to define what is under, what is over, what is enclosed, what's not enclosed, basically. And you'll be able to use that to be able to assign how the system is going to assess things like this here, where it's actually looking and saying, okay, we want to go here because our selection is under. If it's over, then we're going to go over it instead of going under the other option, basically. So it doesn't necessarily reference like going under anything specific, except under a secondary possible choice. So, but it's going to allow for a lot more unique control on certain things. But the main thing is that having new selections with the actions is going to be more something I'm going to be adding in as time goes on. The main thing I'm trying to ensure to add in right now is the new foundation for the system. This is the new action selection type, the new animation selectors, going through all the new functionality. Now, due to the expansive nature of the difference between version 1 and version 2, I do highly recommend, as you can see here, even when I was certain things were working, I touched a couple things and they broke. Now, I am going to be fixing everything. By the time that I upload it to Fab, everything is going to be working. However, that does not mean that you guys might not find a bug that I did not find. I'm going to be doing rigorous testing on a lot of things. I've already done a lot of rigorous testing, and the things that haven't been working in today's stream, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of expected to either really work well or need some refinement, and I know exactly where they need to be refined. It's just not something I had time to do before the stream today. So I am going to be going through. So I guess this means probably maybe like next Wednesday we'll do a stream, because the release date is going to be on the 8th of August, which is going to be a week from this Friday. Now that means that I'm going to be uploading it on the 7th. This just because of the fact that Fab likes to take a day or so, sometimes gives me trouble. So I want to give a little bit of a ahead of time upload, so this way I can make sure everything's going to be copacetic by the 8th. So, but yeah, no, there's going to be a ton of new stuff. So I'm sorry that this I wasn't able to show you guys as good of things as I thought. But the one main thing is that we do have the variation in climbing now. We got the ability to do hanging stuff here. Again, it should be doing. I'm still trying to figure out why the climbing type isn't getting set accordingly. Let's take a look here. I wonder if it actually has something to do. Action selection, climb start. So climb. Oh, okay. Okay. I see what's going on. So that's fine. It's not something I'll be able to fix on the stream here today. But what I'll do is, like I said, I'll set up a stream that will be on Wednesday. What will that be? That'll be the 6th. So that'll be the day before I release it. So if I don't have it done by then I have failed you guys. And I have no intention of doing that. I've been working my butt off for the last 8 months to try and get this together. And I've got a lot of the selection stuff together. It's just, this is what happens when I touch things. I should have known better than to touch things before a stream. It happens to me every time. I touch things, they break, and then I gotta go in and I gotta fix them. I am definitely not what you would call delicate. I'm a bull in a china shop. The fact that I'm able to do coding and be a developer of any kind, or even just a programmer, whatever you want to call it, it still does amaze me to this day. I mean, I was blue collar my entire life, which, you know, some of you guys who have seen my videos and stuff could probably see beard and flannel shirts is kind of my way to go. But anyways, so yeah, we're getting to the pretty much end. I don't really have too much to show you guys, and like I said, unfortunately, things are just not working the way that I intended, so I want to go and I want to fix them. I want to get them ready so that way I can show you guys the beauty of things. Now, the main thing to remember is that there's a ton of transition actions. There's a ton of ways to set things up. There's new selection options. We've got hang versus full contact ledge options. And again, I'm not able to show you exactly, unfortunately, because the system's deciding to hate me right now because I touch things, I broke things. But I will be doing setting up the stream for the 6th, yes, 6th. Probably around the same time, probably around 7:30 Eastern Standard Time US. Yeah, I feel like it's the nature of the beast. You know, like every time you're always, especially with large projects like this, I mean, just to kind of show you the scope here. Now, I don't want you to think that this is unoptimized. This is just as much as it takes to get this running. So we have all of these different sub functions here, and each one of these I've created for a purpose of some kind. So all between all of this, and then we also have the actual functions here that I've created for outside stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of really heavy stuff going on, and I am just exhausted today too, so I'm all over the place. But anyways, yeah, no, they're gonna be in the next update. And the other thing too is, in the other project, like I said, I wish I could show this to you and not versus just say it and talk about it. But I was actually able to achieve the result of allowing the corner transitions. So if I go, we'll just use this one. Oh wait, that's not the right one. So if I go here, if you were to have a ledge off to the right side here, that was, let's say, 10 units in height or whatever, it would actually do a hang type corner transition and blend in between rather than doing just the ledge type. So there's actually going to be live transitions between hang and ledge as well. I think this is where I broke things, because I was working on the live update, and I think somewhere along the lines I was doing an override, and I'm honestly too tired to see where exactly it might be. So now let's see, there was one other thing I wanted to showcase really quick. Losing my train of thought. Oh yeah. Now on top of the base system though, there is some really cool stuff with the functions too. So this is going to be the wrap up here, guys. So if you do have any other questions or comments or anything that you're curious about, things that I can maybe focus on in the next stream before release as well. So I'm going to be making a nice little list of things you guys want to see as far as what might be in the system. If it's not, I can, let you guys know. But while I wait to see if there's any more questions, and if not, all good. One thing that is really cool with the system is that I tried to make certain functions that you guys actually might find useful. One of them being is that, as you guys might know from the previous version of the system, I like to use stacked traces, which basically means that you have traces going on top of each other. Now, I've created this function here. It's called loop trace. Now, what this basically is going to do is do exactly like you would expect. If you take a for loop, now you can use a for loop with break, a for each loop. It really doesn't matter. But if you take this, hook up the index, let's say we get the actor transform here, split the struct pin, and then we're going to go and get the location or rotation. So this is just kind of telling the trace where we want it to start, and the orientation. Now, we also have for scale, we can set this to 5, 5, and 5, because this is actually going to be the scale of the trace. And then the trace distance, how far forward do we want it to run? So then we have trace settings here, which I can just pull off, make trace settings. I'll set drop debug to for duration. This way I can show you guys some additional stuff here. And then we'll set this to K, because why not? And then we'll set the last index to, I don't know, 20, sure. So if I go ahead and I press K, you can see that we have a stack of box traces, 5x5 units, 150 units long, starting from the actor position. And we have an out hit result off of each loop that you can then use. So you can use these traces for your own things. Now, here's something that's really cool. Now, I'm giving you guys a bit of a secret for how the system is actually created here. So if I go ahead now, I don't know if you guys have ever used the combined rotator node Unreal Engine has to offer by default, but it's broken and I hate it. It drives me nuts. So I made my own and I called it adjust orientation. So if you take a return value or the rotator, sorry, and let's say if we rotate it down 90 degrees and then we plug this into the trace orientation now, you remember it was going up from the actor position, but if I press K now, you can see that now it's tracing along forward in the actor position. Well, let's say if you didn't just want to adjust the orientation, what if you wanted to actually also create a vector offset of some kind? And easily, you can actually do that by going offset vector. Plug in the output here, getting the start vector, orientation, and then from this orientation, you can now adjust, that position. You want to send it forward, let's say 80 units, maybe right -80 units. Whoops. Help if I don't go into a falling state. And then I hit K. You can see that now we're tracing in that kind of ground area, 80 units to the right, forward, blah, 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 blah. And these don't have anything to do with the parkour system. There's nothing inside of them that have anything to do with the parkour system or any validations related to the system. So you can use these in your own code. Something very important that I wanted to point out. There's also get direction from input. Where is it? There we go, direction from input. So if we took we'll go to, go to our main function here. So if climbing is false, what we'll do is take the right, and then we'll go print string, and then plug in the direction here. So this is an 8-way directional enumeration, by the way. But then I go ahead and I hit play. You can see we got forward left, forward right, back left, or down left, down right, right and left. So this is actually a fully controlled enumeration that is able to get the direction based off of the input scalar values that are provided. So it's another thing that's very useful if you wanted to get any sort of direction of any kind from things. And there's a few other things that I've added in as far as like functionality that you might find more use for than what I've shown. But one thing I just wanted to show you guys is there's some really cool internal trace functions that come with the asset that you might actually find a crap load of uses for. So I really hope you do. And yeah. So I think that's really about it. I'm going to be, like I said, spending the next few days trying to make sure everything is fixed up, getting all those final tweaks put out. I would imagine you could probably expect to see the stream schedule for that final one that I was talking about. That we'll call it the redemption stream, guys. We're just gonna mark it. I'm gonna be calling it the redemption stream. All right. So it's gonna be on Wednesday. It's gonna be on August 6th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, US. Now, as far as anything else between now and then, as always, please hit me up in the Discord if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, anything like that. I am way more active in the Discord lately. I try to maintain activity on YouTube as much as I can. I have been noticing that there are people who are getting a little, let's just say, feeling neglected in the comment section on some of my videos. And I just want to apologize for any of you who might see this stream who also have been in that situation. The one thing I just want to note is that all my videos, I tried to make sure now have an updated, accurate Discord Discord link. So please, if you have problems, if you're having an issue, just join the Discord. Let me help. All right. I'm not trying to ignore anybody. I can't spend every day watching YouTube comments as much as I want to. I got a lot of development projects in the works. So that's going to close out for today's stream, though, guys. I got a lot of different stuff that we're going to be adding in, a lot of new variations and stuff, and I'm going to be fixing all the new stuff. So the redemption stream, I'll show you the remainder of anything that we're going to be having in. Now, as far as like the pipe climbing and ladders and stuff like that, that is going to be coming in probably mid to late fall, maybe around the winter time. It's going to be an update that I'm going to be putting in within a few months after release. So I'm definitely not going to be waiting for too long. But just as a little bit of a teaser, one thing I am thinking about trying to add in is a grappling system. And when I say grappling, I mean like, zip, swing, maybe even rappelling. So we'll see. That one's, I'm kind of maybe putting the cat before the horse a little bit, but we'll see what happens. But I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I hope you guys are excited for the updates. I know I probably made it look like the system is broken and you're just like, oh no, what am I going to do? What the hell? Why did I pay money for this? I promise you, it was just because I touched things. I'm going to go in and I'm going to touch them again and fix them this time. So I hope to see you all in the redemption stream on next Wednesday. And that's going to be kind of it for now. So I'll hope to see you all then. But until then, stay tuned. And as always, guys, stay animated.